It's Monday, June 5. In the headlines, Autopem prepared for hurricane season. In business news, we feature Kelsey Ann Walker of Kel Cars Catering in this week's Young Bosses. Regionally, Caribbean Airlines launches sustainability program. Internationally, activists call for Brazil indigenous protection. And in sports, a roundup of the results from Racers Grand Prix. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. The North Atlantic hurricane season has begun. Head of the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, Richard Thompson, says Jamaica is in good stead with proper infrastructure and telecommunication systems in place.
But resilience goes way beyond just infrastructure. It also looks at our legislative framework. It also looks at our systems of business, our administrative systems of business. And we are very sound in Jamaica. We have probably one of the best disaster risk management framework globally.
He says they are working on a system where all response teams will be able to communicate via one network during times of disaster.
That was one of the coming out of the HFA, coming out of the Hayoga framework for action and coming into the Sendai framework. Your countries needed to have strong legislative agenda. And so we would have moved in that vein even way before the HFA, because the Caribbean disaster risk management, our Caribbean disaster risk management framework, CDM, our comprehensive disaster risk management agenda in the Caribbean actually predates HFA.
Mr. Thompson explains that the current system will be able to disseminate messages throughout a network as a warning, then as continued communication tool.
Is to ensure that we are modernizing our present systems in terms of emergency communication. In disasters, without proper emergency communication, you are literally dead in the water. You'll be operating blind, and so a part of resilience is to ensure that you can communicate and you can have not only emergency communication for the state entities that are and private entities that are a part of the process, because public-private partnership is critical, but you can ensure that within that communication apparatus that you are providing early warning for community personnel.
He also informed that the National Disaster Risk Management Council, which is chaired by Prime Minister Andrew Holness, is on high alert. Caribbean countries are being urged to replace monuments to persons who enabled slavery and colonialism with memorials in honor of their own citizens who stood against injustice. State Minister in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Alando Terilong, made the call while speaking on reparatory justice at the United Nations headquarters in New York recently. He says the removal of statues of enslavers and colonizers is one step that countries can make while they await the legal framework and action by the UN to effect reparations. He noted that the Jamaican government, through an act of parliament, has removed the criminal records of several persons who, during the periods of enslavement and colonialism based on their activism, were regarded as transgressors of the law. Students from across the island showcased their innovation and creativity in various skills areas at the 8th staging of the World Skills National and Junior Skills Competition at the National Arena last week. The 4-day event started on May 30. It featured an exciting display of skills in areas such as creative arts and fashion, manufacturing, engineering technology, building construction services, robotics and information and communications technology, tourism manufacturing services, culinary arts, among others.
Skills Jamaica is an organization that represents Jamaica in amongst 85 countries at the World Skills International fraternity. And what it does is that it promotes and develops skills and competencies of youths in a myriad of skill areas that are driving the economic sector across the world. So pretty much for our membership, it is required that we keep national skills competitions such as this.
How is the winner chosen for the competition?
All right, so each skill area is built with a set of modules, and in those modules are elements that make up the modules. For each element, there is a portion score, and this score goes into what we call CISR, the Computer Information System. And as they demonstrate competence in these elements, a score is awarded. At the end of the day, all the cumulative scores adds up to a figure. And once the competitor scores a total in excess of 700 or 70% of a 100-point scale, then they're gone into the medal category. And so as it increases above that 70%, the different ranges carry different medals. You have bronze, you have silver, you have gold. And of course, when that is done, an analysis is done, and the competitor who performs the highest score among all the skill area comes out as the top competitor for the year.
The aim was to create a LED display of the world scale optoelectronics technology, and the other one was the world map, the flag, and also one to have the screen pause, and another one like a video. You have the screen sliding, like this one here on the screen, and so that was the project.
Time now for the business report with Danita Rodney.
Welcome to the Business Report. I'm Danita Rodney. It is said that food is our common ground, a universal experience, and this week's young boss is Kelsey Ann Walker of Kel Cars Catering.
Hi, my name is Kelsey Ann Watson Walker, chef and owner of Kel Cars Catering. Kel Cars, or as most persons call it, Case Catering, is a full-service catering company. We provide food and beverages for events, meetings, small gatherings, functions, anything you need. We're there. We can either bring food to you, or if you're having an event, we'll come up and set up a tent and sell if that's what is needed. We consider that our roadside kitchen, so it's another arm of our company. We do rentals as well, equipment rentals for food service and other things, generators and anything you need, we have it. I love food. I've always been around food. Actually, my church is where I got my first start. There is this community services department that before I even got in the professional aspect of it, we used to have a function at the end of every year for senior citizens, golden age home members, community members, and we provide food for them. And at one point, the leader for the department, she asked me to just do it on my own one year because they usually have persons from the church doing it. And I said sure, and then from that I used to do it every year until I went into it professionally. Well, through school and then in the field now. Actually, it has its ups and downs just like any field, but the love is what makes me stay. I don't want to do anything else. Opportunities have come about, but I just want to do this and this only. The only changes I can say that I've probably made is sticking to just catering as opposed to being in a restaurant where I have been to. I dealt with it by just doing it, because if I didn't, then we wouldn't be here today. So just putting the step out there, just getting the And our email is similar as well, casecaterings@gmail.com.
For your market updates, in foreign exchange trading for Friday, June 2, the US dollar sold for an average of $155.88. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $116.09. The pound sterling traded for $194.43, and the euro sold for $165.17. In GSE trading, the GSE index declined by 2,685 points. The junior market index advanced by 13 points. The combined market index declined by 2,380 points, and the all Jamaican composite index declined by 2,090 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 110 stocks, of which 43 advanced, 44 declined, and 23 traded firm. Stocks advanced for AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, Blue Power Group Limited, and CAC 2000 Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Variable Preference, and Barita Investments Limited. Trading firm were Caribbean Cream Limited, Siboney Group Limited, and Community and Workers of Jamaica CCU Deferred Share. The overall volume leaders were Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited with over 16 million units, Wigton Wind Farm Limited Ordinary Shares with over 4 million units, and Fosrich Company Limited with over 2 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, Calypso Macro Index Fund posted 21 shares. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, 0 securities traded. In regional business, Guyana and Dominican Republic has signed a Memorandum of Understanding to deepen relations in several areas. Here's more in this report.
Guyana and the Dominican Republic on Thursday signed 3 agreements to strengthen collaboration between the two countries, which included a Memorandum of Understanding (MOU) on cooperation in energy-related matters. The agreements encompass energy, agriculture, tourism, trade, information technology, ICT, infrastructure, and industry. The two nations agreed to collectively advocate for the growth of small developing states. This includes addressing challenges related to food and energy security, as well as the impact of climate change. In addition to the agreement on energy collaboration, the two nations signed an MOU for political consultation and an air services agreement, which will open the gateway for the Dominican aircraft Skycana to begin flying the Guyana route. The two presidents also agreed to establish a high-level working group to advance and monitor the various areas identified for cooperation. In September 2022, the governments of Guyana and the Dominican Republic signed an MOU for a bilateral cooperation plan. This provided for the strengthening of cooperation, examining opportunities, developing capacities, facilitating partnerships, and sharing experiences in industries. The two countries will continue to enjoy a lasting relationship that will reap benefits for all Guyanese.
In international business, Saudi Arabia will make a deep cut in its output in July on top of a broader OPEC Plus deal to limit supply into 2024 as the group seeks to boost flagging oil prices.
Saudi Arabia on Sunday said it would dramatically cut its crude oil output as part of a deal by OPEC Plus nations to tighten supply into 2024 as producers seek to boost falling oil prices. The Saudi Energy Minister, Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman Al Saud, referred to the million-barrel cut as the Saudi lollipop, in that it sweetened a deal by fellow oil producers to curb production.
And I would have to call it the Saudi lollipop, which is a million barrel of reduction for the start that starts at the 1st of July. And that million is also extendable.
Saudi's energy ministry said the country's output would drop to 9 million barrels per day in July from around 10 million barrels in May, the biggest reduction in years. OPEC Plus, which groups the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and allies led by Russia, pumps around 40% of the world's crude, meaning its policy decisions can have a major impact on oil prices. A surprise decision to cut supply in April briefly sent international benchmark crude around $9 higher. But prices have since retreated under pressure from concerns about the weakness of the global economy and its impact on demand. Saudi Arabia is the only member of OPEC Plus with sufficient spare capacity and storage to be able to easily increase and curtail output.
In market data for oil prices rose by more than $1 a barrel after top crude exporter Saudi Arabia pledged to cut production by a further 1 million barrels per day to counter macroeconomic headwinds that have depressed markets. Brent crude futures were up $1.81 to $77.94 a barrel, while West Texas Intermediate crude climbed by $1.84 to $73.58.
And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, in Trinidad and Tobago, Caribbean Airlines has taken another step towards reaching its sustainability goals. On Saturday, the airline launched its sustainability program. Stacey-Anna Providence has that story.
Today, CAL finds itself enmeshed by a global aviation environment that is adapting to a double disruption, that is rippling into a future that is characterized by decarbonization and digitalization.
This is the context in which Caribbean Airlines has launched its sustainability program. And according to the airline's CEO, CAL continues to make progress with the components of its sustainability program, such as reducing CO2 emissions, in alignment with Trinidad and Tobago's commitment to the Paris Agreement's goals for achievement by 2030.
Through the efforts of our Fuel Management Committee, we have effectively achieved the 2% reduction goal in the last year with our advanced and fuel-efficient 737-8 jet fleet and other proactive initiatives. We are also compliant with ICAO, International Civil Aviation Organization, requirements under the Carbon Offsetting Scheme in Aviation, CORSIA, by submitting our verified CO2 emissions report within the annual deadline.
Mr. Madera notes that the company has also streamlined its corporate social responsibility initiatives around the three pillars of education, community and wellness under the themes Caribbean Careers, Caribbean Community and Caribbean Medical Travel.
As a responsible corporate citizen, Caribbean Airlines invests in the destinations we serve to positively impact the lives of people. This launch today symbolizes our commitment to ensuring that our efforts are structured and in a form that is easily identifiable to our stakeholders as belonging to the Caribbean Airlines brand.
And with the Paris Agreement's deadline set for 2030, keynote speaker Dr. Fazal Ali broached the topic of CAL's next move.
Next steps may include a Paris alignment implementation approach to measure that operations align with climate action. Through this approach, CAL will not just be assessing, but actively designing operations to foster a transition to a low-emissions, climate-resilient economy for its routes and clients.
Caribbean Airlines has launched a dedicated website at cs.caribbean-airlines.com, which highlights the various initiatives and projects undertaken by the company to promote sustainability. Stacey-Ann Providence for TTT News.
Airlift capacity to and from Grenada will increase with the additional inter-island flights planned by Virgin Atlantic. The company announced additional flights which will operate from Barbados to Grenada and St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Virgin Atlantic has reiterated its commitment to the Caribbean by launching inter-island flying, making a wider variety of island destinations even more accessible. From 14th June, Virgin Atlantic will be the only UK airline allowing the travellers to easily hop from Barbados to Grenada or St. Vincent on its own planes, providing a full-service option for island hopping. The new inter-island services are set to provide both international and local customers with more opportunities to explore the Caribbean. Flights will operate between the island twice a week, with the economic fee starting at $307. Chief Executive Officer of the Grenada Tourism Authority, Petra Roach, says the authority is excited about the new flights.
We're really pleased that Virgin Atlantic has been given fifth freedom rights to sell tickets between Grenada and Barbados. Barbados is actually our second largest producing island in the Caribbean. And as we know, we have continued to struggle a little bit in terms of getting back the capacity to where it was in the previous years. So this ability to sell tickets with Virgin Atlantic between the two islands is certainly a welcome addition and will give us a much needed boost to our Caribbean traffic. So we just also wanted to clarify that this is not a new plane, it's not an additional plane. What is happening is that Virgin has been given fifth freedom rights to sell tickets between Barbados and Grenada. So those persons who leave Heathrow, they either disembark in Barbados or they disembark in Grenada. But this now gives Virgin the ability to pick up passengers in Barbados and bring them through to Grenada. Virgin Atlantic currently flies twice a week into Grenada on Tuesdays and Saturdays. They're using the A330s 300, which have a total of 266 seats. And the only restriction in terms of their ability to sell these tickets is that they can only sell economy tickets. So that will be 185 seats in economy, and obviously you then have Virgin Atlantic and Virgin Holidays selling twin centres as an option as well. The Virgin traffic comes out of Heathrow, and this we've seen out of the UK market is a really good hub for us, so we welcome the news and we know that it will do extremely well.
In news on the international scene, activists in Brazil are calling for more measures to protect the Amazon's indigenous population and those fighting to preserve the rainforest. More from Al Jazeera.
Orlando Possuelo and Cristóvão Tataco still remember the 2-hour wait and the gut feeling that something had gone terribly wrong. A year ago, on June 5th, they had received a radio message from their colleague, indigenous expert Bruno Pereira. He was on his way to meet them at the small river port of Atalaia do Norte. British journalist Dom Phillips was accompanying him in the boat.
When they didn't show up, I knew something horrible had happened. We set out with our indigenous patrol team to try and find them.
Pereira had been heading indigenous patrols documenting invasions by poachers in the Javari territory, home to the world's largest number of isolated tribes. 10 days after the search began, the bodies of both men were found. They had been burnt, dismembered, and buried. A few months before the assassination, we had witnessed an encounter between Pereira and Amarildo da Costa Oliveira, one of the two fishermen who confessed to the murder. Both men are now in prison and await trial.
The brutal killing of Dom Phillips and Bruno Pereira drew worldwide attention to the remote and sleepy town of Atalaia do Norte. People here thought that things might change, but you can still feel the tension.
Raimundo de Oliveira, who is a key witness in the murder trial, says he fears for his life. And he's not the only one.
Illegal fishermen still enter the indigenous territory and they're still being financed by criminal organizations.
But in the years since the murders, Brazil's government under recently elected leftist President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has very publicly announced steps to protect the region from poachers. Local leaders say it isn't enough. This member of the Corubo tribe told us his scouts had caught a poacher on his lands. They tied him and took him to the local authorities, but he was set free.
Next time the poachers show up, we will have to act on our own if we don't want to be killed.
All sides agree that policing an area the size of Austria presents enormous challenges. But 1 year after the killings of Dom Phillips and Bruno Pereira, residents of the Javari Valley insist those challenges must be met to ensure that no more lives are lost. Monica Yanakiev, Al Jazeera, Vale do Javari.
In sports, Sharika Jackson won the women's 100 meters event at the Racers Grand Prix at the National Stadium on the weekend. The world 200-meter champion clocked a meet record time of 10.78 seconds to destroy the field. The Bahamian Anthony Stratton was second in a season's best time of 10.99 seconds, while third went to Shashali Forbes in 11.07 seconds. American Christian Coleman was pushed all the way to the line before winning the men's 100 meters A race in 10.03 seconds. The fastest finishing, Kadrian Goldson, was second in a personal best 10.08, with Emmanuel Archibald of Guyana third in 10.23 seconds. Ramona Burchell clocked a season's best 11.17 to win the women's 100 meters B race. Tina Clayton was second in a personal best 11.23, while third went to Brianna Williams in 11.30 seconds. Tyler Mason won the men's 110 hurdles event with 13.14 ahead of Orlando Bennett 13.18 and Damian Thomas 13.19 seconds. Toby Amerson clocked a season's best 12.57 to win women's 100 meters hurdles event. Sharaki Young got the best of her rivals to win the women's 400 meters event in 51.11 seconds. Her compatriot Stacey Williams was second in 51.34. American Kendall Ellis was third in 51.37. Former Hydel standout Shian Salmon won the women's 400 meters hurdles. Jamaica's Shanika Ricketts won the women's triple jump with a leap of 14.32 meters in front of Thea Lafford of Dominica 14.15 and the USA's Imani Oliver 12.97 meters. In other sporting news, the West Indies' three-match one-day international tour of the United Arab Emirates got off to a positive start with a 7-wicket victory over the hosts.
The UAE won the toss and decided to bat against the team led by Shai Hope and were bowled out for 202. Kemo Paul, who took a wicket with only the second ball of the match, finishing with match best figures of 3 wickets for 34 runs from 7.1 overs. Dominic Drakes, 2 for 29, Odin Smith, 2 for 40, and Yannick Karaya, 2 for 26, were contributors for the West Indies attack. Ali Nasir was the top scorer for the UAE with a knock of 58. The West Indies in their turn at the crease were led by Brandon King, 112, that included 12 fours and 4 sixes, stormed to victory in only 35. 2 overs. Shamar Brooks also had a knock of 44 in the Caribbean team's victory. Casey Carty, 7, and Captain Shai Hope, 13, were the not-out batsmen for the West Indies. With the victory, West Indies' new white ball coach Darren Sammy started his tenure on a positive note.
And that's the news on PBCJ. Remember, you can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thank you so much for watching.